Welcome to the Gamer Librarian Podcast. We're just gonna forego the intro for this episode and go a little more natural. Um, I just want to start out by saying that this is the 1 year anniversary of starting this podcast. Technically, it was on the 9th of March, but was a little busy this weekend, couldn't get the episode put together in time. Um, and I wasn't really prepared because I wasn't finished with certain games and other things. So, here we are recording right now, and a lot has happened over this weekend. Quite a lot of news has come out, and I'll talk about the biggest one, at least to me, is that there is the passing of the beloved mangaka artist Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball, and uh, also had a hand in many other pieces of media out there like Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, as well as his other own um, various contributions like the Sandland manga and everything else that he's done. And I've been a massive Dragon Ball fan, just like almost everybody else since I was like a little kid. Watching them on TV. And I got the news when I had just walked into my girlfriend's house. Saw on a Discord message that he had passed, and I'm still a little distraught over it. It's just everywhere you look online and everything, it's just all the other prominent artists and fans and everyone just going out of their way and talking about it and sharing the memories and everything like that. And that's just it's really nice to see all the support that people are putting out for Akira, because he truly did have like an actual uh, pillar of influence towards everything since his earliest contributions with his manga, like not even just Dragon Ball in general, but everything since, and it's disheartening to see that, especially with some of his other works, still being kind of made. I know Sandland had just gotten like a video game adaptation, I think, like announced or a little while ago, and like Dragon Ball Super is still strong and kicking. Like the manga and the anime, I'm sure is already being like midway production, and then there's Dragon Ball Dido. I always get the new name mixed up, but yeah, the new Dragon Ball anime that's supposed to come out is obviously gonna be influenced in some way by that. Um, it is sad. It's a sad time for Dragon Ball fans, and it's really hard to really even like think about what's gonna happen with Dragon Ball now. Because there's so much that's kind of in the air. I've been a big fan of the manga for a while, especially Dragon Ball Super. Regardless of what anyone really says about it, I think people love it. I think people are big fans. Even all the new uh, transformations and stuff. But it's really nice, and um, I'm excited to see where it goes. I think that Toyotaro is gonna do a really good job trying to you know uphold what we have as a standard for Dragon Ball. He's been doing that for so long already, but I think without him, he might feel like he has a harder time doing that without Akira. And kudos to you, Toyotaro. I think you're doing a killer job. Every panel of Dragon Ball Super is just stunning. You put so much into the panels all the time, and it's just I'm looking forward to it. Regardless of what's gonna happen. And I'd like to commemorate the podcast to Akira Toriyama in some way. So I think in the future, I'm gonna try and focus on reading the Dragon Ball manga, the original one. I've never read that before. I've only ever watched the anime, so I think it's gonna be a really fun time. And then I'd like to try and get through the entirety of what Dragon Ball is apparently based on is the in Chinese classic Journey to the West. This is like an old classic. I think it's like 1500s or so. Um, but apparently it's what Dragon Ball is based off of, and I would love to see what would have inspired the writer to create Dragon Ball. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be doing in the future sometime. Um, and I think there's like four like versions of Journey to the West, a whole bunch of different translations or stuff, but I haven't decided which one I'm going to read. I broke out my manga collection of Dragon Ball that I bought a little while ago. It was just sitting there up on a shelf, and I haven't gotten a chance to really crack it open and read it. So I'm going to do that. Um, Try and get through all the volumes and talk about it here because I think it'd be really nice to try and sit through and see all the drawings like an actual ink and paper because that's going to be a really nice time. And I like to do a lot of some of the other stuff that Akira Toriyama put his hands into, like Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest. So I think a Chrono Trigger replay is definitely coming up in the future, and that's what you guys get to look forward to for that. I just want to try and commemorate that in some way because he definitely influenced a lot of people. And I spent a lot of my time just going through Dragon Ball games, and I've played Dragon Quest 11 and Chrono Trigger before, and that was just about it. So I definitely like to give things like the Sandland manga a try, and some of his other stuff, just to definitely dabble into it, because he did so much, and it's a really sad time for anyone who was like a Dragon Ball or an anime fan or wasn't anything that he had his hand into. And yeah, we'll end it on that just because I think everybody has like said their piece on that, and there's some other news I want to talk about, some new stuff. So it worries me to think that I would have never even like have seen that Toriyama had passed because I tried my darndest to stay off the internet because of the release of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That game's also pretty beloved to a lot of people's hearts. I didn't play it when like it came out. I played it on the PS2 much later in my life, like maybe my like right out of high school, and I'd loved it since. I've been a big Final Fantasy fan. It's just one of the same ones that I've always loved. And after replaying Remake and then Crisis Core that I talked about on last episode, I'm super ecstatic for Rebirth. So I was trying to stay off of the internet and avoid spoilers. And I got close before being spoiled, especially recently while playing the game. I was almost spoiled, but I held true to that. That didn't happen to me. But I've been playing Rebirth since it came out last Friday, and it has been a wild ride ever since. I mean, this game delivers on so many ends that like it's unfathomable like what they accomplished in terms of um this remake or this remake sequel. It's leagues better than remake. It just is. It's full of charm, and the level design is just on par with things of like Horizon Zero Dawn or those kind of open world zone kind of games. And the combat is just amazing, truly amazing. It definitely um, doesn't take the combat that was in remake too far, but it definitely builds upon it. It adds some more moves for the characters. They do about the same kind of stuff they did in the last game. Cloud is just the big sword guy. Barrett has his gun, and then Tifa still uses her fists. But then the best part for um, the party, in my opinion, the goat of the party was Yuffie, because she has the ability to quickly change the attributes of her weapon, like the elemental stuff, and that just becomes so overpowered later on. Because you could just stack up staggers so fast. I love that. You combo that with some of Barrett's moves. Oh, you're clearing out enemies so fast. I love Yuffie. You know, and I wanted to stay off the internet just because of it's a pretty big thing in I guess gaming that like a certain character dies in this game. I think people know about it. That's like prominently that like it's not that big of a spoiler. But the thing about remake is that it kind of alludes to that idea of choice. And, there's some options. I'm not necessarily sure what the different outcomes per playthrough or per choice would be for this game. I've only played it once. I've only seen the credits go by once so far. But, I definitely wanted to avoid whatever kind of outcome they had planned for this new iteration for Rebirth. And it was a crazy ride starting up that game and wondering where it was going to go, because it's very faithful to the original game. There's a lot that's actually there, and they expand upon it Some things come a little earlier or later. And but it's all just done so fantastically, and it just never ends with the surprises in that game. The combat is one thing, but what was really, really breathtaking in that game was the different environments that you go through. You're going through like we've seen like these rocky grasslands, and then you get into like the big city areas like Junon, under Junon, or even just the Golden Saucer. You get so much like magnificent places to explore and do things in. I mean, the amount of mini games that are in this one game alone is astounding. I think there's like maybe one or two mini games per chapter almost. Realistically, like the Golden Saucer has like 20 that you can do. Not even to mention the new side mini game, like its own like Yu-Gi-Oh! Shadow Realm kind of thing, Queen's Blood. It's this collectible card game that you can do in the game. You can buy cards at stores or earn them by winning or finding them, I guess. And it's it's a lot of fun once you get a hang of it, once you get a grasp on some of the mechanics, because it does take a little like mental fortitude, I guess, to like at least try to have strategy in the game. You could just wing it for most of the fights, or at least most of the duels, I guess they call them, because once you get some of the crazier cards, you can kind of just strong arm your way into winning. But even then, like some of the cards that the enemies pull are pretty strong themselves, and you could find yourself having to retry quite a lot. But that was fun. That was a hell of a lot of fun. That probably like drove me to play the game even more. That's what happened to me in The Witcher with the card game in that. I was more focused on that than anything regarding The Witcher. So that was actually a lot of fun. And so yeah, for the story, I'll try not to talk about much of the spoilers just because there's still a lot of people trying to play it, and I like anybody to play it for the first time. Go and do that. If you haven't played Final Fantasy VII, go do that now. Go play remake. I'm sure it's on sale for pretty cheap, or I think that they probably still have that bundle where you can get both. Do it. Get yourself ready for the third installment, because that is what they teased when they talked about the remakes originally, that they're going to be a trilogy, and this game does land on a cliffhanger, in some vague ways. It really does, but I'm more excited than ever for the third iteration, reunion, or whatever they're gonna call the remake part three. So yeah, that was actually a hell of a lot of fun playing through that game, and I'd love to go back to it. Obviously, there's so many other games and things to do that are coming out, but there's like side content in the game that I haven't done, a few side quests that I just skipped because at some point the side quests got a little grating. There's a specific chicken one where you have to like chase the chickens with this can thing. Nah, that's not for me. And then there was a cat one that was kind of okay. I like cats, so I'm a little biased, but you also kind of have to like lead them on like a walking thing. Um, that's kind of why I got burnt out on the side quest for the most part. But some of them still pretty fun. You can do things like hunt for chocobos, or find these cactar trials on some of these side quests, and even like more stuff that I won't even talk about. But there's a lot to do in the game, and you don't have to do all of it. You can probably blast through the story mode if you really want to. My playthrough took me about 90 hours. I haven't looked at it when I beat it, but last time I checked, I was at like 89 before the final battle. Um, so yeah, that was really great. I loved playing through that, and playing Crisis Core, specifically playing Crisis Core, was such a it kind of enhanced the experience way more, because you do have some interactions as Zack in the game. That wasn't really like a spoiler. You kind of know about that, but playing through Crisis Core, it definitely enhanced the experience, because a lot of Crisis Core is used in a Rebirth. I wasn't thinking it was. I was kind of thinking they're just going to use Zack and that was it. But no, some other characters return. There's some other side nods and stuff like that. So really playing through Crisis Core was a good idea, a really good idea, for whatever people may say about that game. I liked playing it. I liked the roulette ATB system that they had, the slot stuff. I thought that was cool, and I kind of was hoping that would return in some way for Rebirth. But no, that you don't really have that when you play Zack in this game. That's kind of a little disappointing, but nah, it's really not. It's something that's just to add on. That'd be a lot more. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of side content. Summons are great. You can fight those. A whole bunch of other like trials you can do for Chadley and all these kinds of things. I will say though, I miss that they didn't bring back some kind of materia fusion or something that was from like Crisis Core. I liked that. I think the materia fusion was actually pretty cool because you can get some pretty cool and crazy materias with the combinations out there, and I'm sure nowadays you could make even much more with all the new material that they have in Rebirth. So that's a little like you know a little hopeful dream that they might add at some point, maybe in the next game. Because who knows what's going to go down, man. Final Fantasy VII Part 3 is going to be the wildest game ever. It truly is because we're at the end game. Like this is practically the end of Final Fantasy VII. I won't say what the end is really like, but you're basically on the last disc and you're just doing some very last minute things like end game stuff, beating some secret bosses, and then it's on the fight Sephiroth for the last time. And then obviously we have like some of the further lore. Like I think there's a Turk story somewhere in between there on some game, and then there's Advent Children, which is kind of cool. And I would love to see what they kind of do in terms of Advent Children with this ending because they did have Advent Children in theaters for a while ago, and that was pretty exciting. So I wonder if they're gonna, in some way, acknowledge Advent Children. I feel like they are. I do feel like they are because they have Roche, who's obviously like a motorcycle dude, and not to give much spoilers to Roche, but it was kind of tease and remake what this character could be. If you've seen Advent Children, Roche is very clearly a character like very similar to some of the adversaries in Advent Children. So that's just my guess is what they're going to do with him. There's a lot of like new cliffhangers and threads that Rebirth puts upon us that kind of makes things confusing. I'm sure there's like articles and stuff out there already explaining the ending in some way, but I'm just gonna take it as what I saw based on actually beating it. So that's just me. So Rebirth was amazing. If you like Final Fantasy VII, if you like RPGs or Final Fantasy games, absolutely play Rebirth because I think it's a 10 out of 10 game of the year contributor for this year, contender for this year because there's just so much to do, and you get such a lovely story. It's presented so well. I mean, the graphics on the PS5 were completely amazing. In some of the open world stuff, you can see some of like the pop in stuff, and that's just very minor, And obviously, when the game is like really chugging, when like some of the bigger bosses are doing some of their larger moves, and your characters are also doing larger moves, and then you add in like the slow mo selection stuff during combat. You can feel a little chug, just a little bit, but that did not ruin the experience in any way. Not in any way that I feel like my experience was dampened while playing this game. It was phenomenal through and through. I had a hard time staying at work, trying not to play this game. I took off uh, two days just to play this game, Thursday and a Tuesday. I just wanted to get those games done, and I did 90 hours, and I would love to do it again on hard mode. You can unlock hard mode later on. I did mine on Dynasty or Deity, whatever the D hard mode or like the default hard mode is. But now you have like super hard mode once you unlock that. So yeah, that's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Go play that. And just to really give a quick shout out to it was a book I ran through just through a few days was a tie-in novel for Final Fantasy, and it's called Traces of Two Pasts. It mainly focuses on Aerith and Tifa as like the main focus characters, but then like towards the end, there's even some side story content, which I think characters who are specifically mentioned for the books, and then like some side characters for the remake games and stuff. I wasn't much interested in those towards the end. I was surprised to even see those, to be honest, at those were at the end. But I was really mostly honestly there for Aerith and Tifa, and those stories were pretty good. You get a nice prequel understanding of Aerith's like backstories. He gives some nice stuff, and then Tifa, you get a really good like personal viewpoint of her events from Final Fantasy VII. You know, because he's not really the main character, but you do get like her perspective on a lot, and like her early life, which was like her training with Zangan or whatever his name is, the martial arts dude. You see her meet him for the first time, and her trying to train, and how that like affects her as a character. I thought that was really cool. That was probably my favorite part about the whole book was knowing about that. I don't know if that was like mentioned in any other kind of media or stuff, but yeah, that was a really great story. Um, so yeah, if you're looking for any more like really good context or character development or lore or anything like that for Final Fantasy, give this book a try if you want to learn more about Aerith or Tifa and some of the more uh, uh, tinier parts of Midgar and the world of Final Fantasy VII, because that book added to the experience. There's even some um, scenes taken from Rebirth put into this because the book, I guess, takes place right before Rebirth begins, like right before they get to the Nibelheim inn. Yeah, they talk about like their past and stuff. Aerith and Tifa become like a little friend group. Um, yeah, it was nice. It was a good book. So give that a shot. And that's about it for Final Fantasy VII. You know, that's definitely gonna be it. And for everything else coming out, um, Dragon's Dogma is gonna be here soon, and I've been trying to play through some of that. Um, the first game, Dark Arisen. I haven't really gotten too far. I'm only about like 20 level 29 now. The game is fun. Obviously the game's like pretty old, but I wish that the quests were a little more clear. Now that I understand the game a little more, but it's fun. It's definitely preparing me for Dragon's Dogma 2, which I just got the character creator thing for on PS5. Made my little cat dude. I got the deluxe edition, so I'm gonna get Trickster. That's what I'm going for. I'm gonna make a Trickster, but it makes you choose one of the default classes once you do it. So I just defaulted to Mage right then, and then I made a pawn companion character who's gonna be I think a thief. I made her a thief, so I'm gonna keep her as a thief. And then uh, my boy JP is gonna have a mage character, I'm sure, ready for me just to steal because I think they have that sharing pawn system. And then I'll probably have some warrior character, and that'll round out my party. I think it's a party of 4 for Dragon's Dogma 2. But yeah, I'm hoping to finish Dragon Dogma 1 before 2 comes out. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that. It's a pretty long game, and it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard, besides the targeting being kind of some of the fight against. The combat's pretty difficult, They're throwing a lot of enemies at you early on. I'm only level about 20, and some of these fights go into killing 20 or 30 enemies at some point, especially and like the smaller numbers, like the wolves and the bandits. But the bigger creatures are it's real fun, fighting like the chimeras and the fighting hawks and stuff so far in the early area around Grand Soren. That's what I've been doing. That's all really fun. And for Dragon's Dogma, there's really not much else to talk about. I haven't gotten too far, so I don't want to mention anything else. I'm sure everybody else is just waiting for it to come out like I am. In terms of other Capcom news, they had a big showcase showing off some stuff. But Akuma, he was finally shown off for Street Fighter 6. That's gonna be a really good time to get back into that. I'm looking forward to it. And then uh, let's transition to outside of video games for a bit, because I think video games right now this time of year is on a pretty slow crawl. We just got Final Fantasy, and then we got Dragon's Dogma. So that's really like the talking points for gaming right now, as it seems. But then I saw Dune over the past 2 weeks, 2 weeks ago, and this is Dune Part Two. Saw it in theaters, and I saw the first one also in theaters when it came out, and I loved it. I loved the first one. I think the first one was a pretty good adaptation. There wasn't a whole lot of scenes that I personally liked from the first half of the book that weren't in there. And then I would honestly say for the second half it might be the same. Because it's definitely a cohesive like ending. For a part two of a movie, like it all makes sense, and I loved it. I think the movie series, as in its entirety, is pretty great. This new one, I would definitely watch it again. I would recommend it. And I think the visuals were truly great. Seeing all these sandworms so often, that was really fun. You see a lot of sandworms on screen for Dune Part Two, and the fighting was also amazing. Seeing all that choreographed stuff, but the um Part Two takes out some of the context that kind of leads into the third book. I mean, you don't really need it, but it does kind of take away from that what I think is like a real like shift in the paradigm of Arrakis around the end of Dune Part 2. Because in the book you see a big change in Paul, like a true change in how he acts around the Fremen and his family, Chani, and not to mention his sister Alia, who gets born. She gets born in the books and is a big influence. So there's a bit of disparity in the events that take place in the books towards the movie, but I don't think the movie loses that feeling, the tone or the ideas that were from the book. I don't think the movie loses that at all. So I'm actually excited to see where it goes from that. I would love to see them adapt Messiah. Messiah is my favorite Dune book so far out of the four that I've read. And I would love to have a reason to go back and read the series again. So, I'm really looking forward to what happens with Dune, more of that. And, Dune Spice Wars is a really fun strategy game, but I'm also interested in seeing what the MMO that they announced, Dune Awakening, is going to be like. That seems pretty cool. Um, I haven't played an MMO in quite a long time, but I think Dune is a pretty cool, you know, franchise to make into an MMO. I don't know about survival MMO. That's what they called it, I believe, a survival mass multiplayer online game. So who knows about that? But it looks cool. Like from the gameplay they at least showed off, or whatever concept of gameplay that is, it seems intriguing, truly. And I've been talking about this show for quite a while. The Walking Dead just had the third episode of its new series, The Ones Who Live, and I still like it. I still love it. I'm totally in for Rick and Michonne on this show, and it's only getting crazier from here. They just got um, a part of the CRM like city. Like the Michonne is a consi now, and they're trying to find a way, like a balance of like go home or stay here again, which is honestly I was surprised they took an entire episode like dedicated to that one thing, because um, Rick is having a real hard time having her stay here because obviously she's not allowed to be here. And Michonne, wants him and wants him to either come back or be with him. But these I didn't think they were gonna have an episode where it was like it was these two butting heads on staying or leaving, because there's a pretty cool cliffhanger on the end of this, and I'm truly excited to see where it goes on episode 4. And I think there's only 6 episodes, so I don't know what's gonna happen if it's only 6 episodes for this show. That seems odd for kind of like the endings they're trying to tie in together. But who knows? You know, The Walking Dead has been a conundrum towards the television scape for quite a long time, and its new transition to like streaming, because that's what all the new shows have been, was streaming. I think they found like a pretty good stride in what they're doing. They're putting out like different kinds of shows, a little bit kind of like what Marvel does, but trying to focus on the characters they already have rather than make shows based around new characters that don't need 8 episodes to establish. But that's just me. The Walking Dead is it's fun. It's fun seeing zombies just get killed, and I want to see where Rick and Michonne's story goes. I would love to see if they make it out of this alive, because it's called The Ones Who Live, so one of them's got to go. And to be honest, I think they're probably going to kill off Rick. I think it'll be Rick. I don't think he's going to come back after this. Obviously, I don't want that, but that's the way she goes. Now, I talked about this last episode, and I'm so excited that they put out a trailer for it so soon, especially with the release date, March 21st, is for their adaptation of the Three Body Problem. Like that's crazy that they put out a trailer and a release date right after I talk about the episode. I don't know. That just seems really cool to me. I'm so excited. The trailer looks amazing. You know, just coming off of the original adaptation that was on Amazon. Um, I'm intrigued to see what differences this is because they could present it in a whole different way, and it looks like they are. Some of the scenes don't necessarily match what I think some of the scenes are in the original book, but I'm excited to see where this goes. And it. I would love for it to extend past just the first book, because the Dark Forest and then the third book and even the fourth book explore some pretty crazy ideas towards like science and science fiction and storytelling. I love it. I think the entire series is just amazing. So I'm gonna binge the absolute hell out of Three Body Problem. Netflix also announced that they're doing adaptation of another beloved manga of mine, Parasite by Hitoshi Iwaka. This adaptation is called Parasite the Gray, and I don't think it's a true adaptation of the manga or even the anime spin-off. I think it's like its own thing. I think it's its own entire thing. It's Korean apparently, and comes out April 5th. And I've been dying to go back and watch or read Parasite because it was just a fun, intriguing manga. Um, that was short, and it was just full of such cool ideas like being like a host for a creature and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm truly looking forward to watching the Parasite the Gray soon. Maybe I'll do an episode of the podcast dedicated to those two shows, The Body Problem and Parasite, because those are two really good stories that I would love to focus on. And for TV shows, I think we're gonna end on talking about the Fallout TV show because that one I think is a mixed bag for everyone because Bethesda for the last few years has kind of left a sour taste in our mouths. I loved Starfield, I loved it, and 76 is what it is. I think nowadays, they may have done a No Man's Sky and changed it, for the better, but it is what it is. And then Fallout 4, that was maybe like a step in the wrong direction for some people. Still fun, different, kind of, but for this show to come out and from what I've seen, apparently Todd Howard, I think it's Todd Howard, apparently said that they were talking to the showrunners of the show and said that some of the stuff that they're doing for the show is similar, if not the same, as whatever ideas they have planned for Fallout 5 or the next Fallout game or whatever have you. And you know, I I suppose a return to California area would be cool. I think that the Fallout show takes place in Los Angeles. That's what I would heard. But you know, I don't know if going back to California would be a good time or for Fallout fans. I would prefer a new area. I know people are loving New Vegas. New Vegas is a really beloved game, and people want to see that again. But if you get a New Vegas 2 in like some kind of way in a video game, it technically wouldn't even be the same. I don't mean to say that it would be bad or anything, but that game ends on like uh the idea that you have different factions like leading them, and that just seems like a headache to try and make into like a new game or whoever's controlling, and it would suck to just have like one like dominant faction at the start. Like if you choose Mr. House again, or if you have the NCR be the leaders of the Legion. I think a New Vegas 2 would be really difficult to make. And while I don't think that like having a Fallout TV show be like a direct stand-in for a game, I think Fallout as a TV show should have like its own identity. I don't think it should try and tie itself into the actual canon like lore of the games, like the games themselves, like the characters you play as. If it's like prequel stuff, you can muddy around with that. Like no one really cares about like how the bombs fell or like what was happening around that time. Like that's like the catalyst for what Fallout is. As long as the show looks like Fallout, the story doesn't have to necessarily be the same. We don't have to have the person leaving the vault for a family member kind of storyline again, or anything like that. I'm sure it was gonna happen. It's simple and easy, but it's Fallout TV show is pretty cool. We're also getting that Borderlands show, which is crazy, and or the Borderlands movie. It's the wild time. They announced Super Mario movie 2, it's the sequel, which is pretty awesome, really awesome. Um, I would definitely love to see that because the first Mario movie was amazing. It was so full of such fun, charm, and it had a really good identity for a Mario world. Like regardless of the voices and starting out in New York and all that stuff. Truly, that was a really fun movie, and I think they're gonna really hit out the park with the next one. And that's really about it. This year's been uh, really something so far, 2024. The video game industry has taken a big hit lately. A lot of people lost a lot of jobs in the industry, and that's really disheartening as well. And, on top of that, we're seeing a lot of these bigger games come out and all these other things that, doesn't seem like the industry is, in a decline anyway, but you know, for the bigger companies, it feels like it is. And, games are taking longer to make, they're more expensive. It's just a different time. And you see that reflected in so many other things, like monetization for games, like trying to keep them alive through that. You can't fault the online games for trying to, monetize a way to keep you playing. Because that keeps the game running, and, like sales alone on a video game doesn't necessarily mean that the game's successful in some way. They have to do make money, and selling skins or DLC or whatever have you is just one way to get your money. They just have to be good products. They have to be worth the money you're spending on or the time you're putting into them. I think fighting games has a really good method for that with some of their stuff. I wish they would go free to play. I wish fighting games would go free to play so you could just play, the arcade modes and online just with your characters and get them done, and just play with your friends. In story modes and skins and other like cosmetic stuff, you can pay for that. Uh, like Multiverses, that game recently just got dropped for like a relaunch. It was in beta when it came out like last year or 2 years ago. That was a beta, but now it's having a proper launch sometime this May, I believe. And I'm excited. I played a lot of that game, a lot of Multiverse when that game came out. I played a lot of Velma. Oh man, I loved playing Velma. Velma with duos was so good, and then LeBron was awesome. Shaggy is also just a great character. I loved Multiverses. That game scratched the itch for Smash Bros. That I was missing. And Nicktoons Brawl or whatever that was. That the first game never hit that kind of feel for me, and then I never played the sequel. I never played the sequel. I just did not, and I won't. But Multiverses, I think, is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, more than it was when it first launched in that beta. And I wish fighting games would take that model. I think, games like shooters should take that model with like their multiplayer battle pass nonsense, and single players should be like paid for and stuff. But, people want their full package, or they want the game to be something when like, right now the technology just can't handle it. You see that with PCs, you see that with the different versions of consoles that's inevitably going to come out, the PS 5 Slim or whatever have you. Yeah, if you're looking forward to hearing what I have to say about anything I talked about here, like the TV shows, games, or movies or books that I've been talking about, subscribe to follow along. And for this episode, leave a like if you like anything from Akira Toriyama. If you've been a Dragon Ball fan, if you like any of his mangas, if you've played any of the games, like he had anything to contribute to, leave a like. Show your support for Akira Toriyama. And thank you.